We're gonna share with you another amazing fajita recipe with a marinade and some awesome bourbon to go with it. There are 4 key things that you really need to know in order to grill fajitas perfectly. And those 4 things are tenderness, flavor, the cooking process, and how you slice them. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to cover all those bases and grill perfect fajitas every single time. All right, friends, let's get started. So the first 2 things that we need to cover when we're talking about cooking the perfect fajitas is tenderness and flavor. The inside skirts, which we call fajitas, are already a tough cut of meat. So the first thing we want to do is trim up some of the fat. In this case today, these are pretty nice already. They don't have a lot of fat to trim. They have a little bit of silver skin there. Not gonna worry about that too much on those little end pieces, but I do like to get this excess membrane off right here. By getting most of your big hard fat off, you're gonna allow the seasoning and the marinade to really penetrate that meat for a much better eating experience. And of course, you're not gonna have too much fat in the bite either. You know, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, when you buy those marinated fajitas at the markets and stuff, mostly all of those are tumbled in a vacuum tumbler. And so that basically pounds them. They also add liquid in there. When they open up the valve and the air go back in there, that meat sucks up all that moisture and it's already beat, so it's soft and tender. So we're gonna bypass the tumbler today, and I'm gonna show you guys how you don't have to buy a marinated fajita. You can create your own marinated fajita right here doing what we're doing here today. It's amazing. I promise you're gonna like it. All right, we have these fajitas all nicely trimmed up. Let's get started with our marinade. Some people were asking me for more marinade recipes, and so I did some research. Decided to collaborate with today's sponsor, Still Austin, out of Austin, Texas, and I came up with a truly game-changing marinade recipe for your cooking arsenal. All right, now here's a pro tip. What you want to do first is start with all the liquids. So we're going to go ahead and pop the top off of this bottle. But before we put that in there, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the lime. We're going to use 1 whole lime here. It's okay to put all the pulp in there. Next up is going to be 2 tablespoons of Worcester sauce. I call it Worcester sauce. So there's 1 and 2. All right, next up is 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Soy sauce brings a little umami to the table. All right, now here's a really important part. You're gonna wanna use a good bourbon, and the reason is because bourbons do have the ability to tenderize meat as well. A good bourbon is gonna be smooth and flavorful and gonna do the job really well. The Musician Straight Bourbon from Still Austin in Austin, Texas is the perfect bourbon to really make the fajitas and this marinade pop. So we're gonna take a 1/2 cup of the Musician, which is a straight bourbon whiskey made by Still Austin Whiskey Company. After you have all your liquids in there, we're gonna add 3 teaspoons of APC Wow, 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. We're gonna take a dash of smoked paprika. Next up, gonna be about a teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm gonna stir this up a little bit, kind of try to help dissolve that rub. And I'm gonna take this onion, and it's about a 1/4 cup, folks. We're gonna dice it and drop it in the marinade here. 2 whole garlic cloves. We also have pineapple. Dice it up a little bit. I like to smash it up a little bit at least. Let's get all of this in here. This is another pro tip. You always want to use the oil last, because the oil does not dissolve or blend with anything. All right, and it's gonna be a 1/2 cup, folks. Now this marinade is good for 2 to 3 pounds. You could probably use it on 4 pounds. I know what you're thinking. How long do we marinate this meat? I probably would not want to go more than 8 hours, because we do have these enzymes in here and they will break down that meat and tenderize it, and it might get a little bit mushy if you leave it too long. I like to put a little bit of the marinade on the bottom. Then I like to lay the fajitas in here. And I prefer to use a Tupperware because you can layer the meats like that. And you can put some more marinade right here just like that. We'll put the rest of the marinade in here. All right, folks, I'm gonna put the lid on this and we're gonna get into the refrigerator for about 4 hours. We'll be back in a little while, get fired up and start cooking some amazing fajitas. Of course, y'all know bourbon isn't just for marinades, right? It's probably gonna take about as long to cook fajitas because they're hot and fast as it's gonna take me to finish up this little drink here. Time to get them out of the marinade and get them onto the fire. Here we go. I love the sound of that sizzle, folks. Some people ask, should you rinse them or not before you put them on the grill? I usually do. Sometimes I don't. You don't really have to. One of the reasons I tell you to do it is because the oil is going to drip down in the fire and create a little flame. Now in my case, I have a lot of distance between the meat and the fire, so if I get a little flame, it's just added flavor. All right, friends, now when you're cooking fajitas, they are a hot and fast cooked, like we're doing here today. I've got a nice big charcoal fire. I threw a couple of chunks of wood in there to add a little extra flavor from the smoke of the wood and a little bit of flame that really enhances the flavor. So there's a couple of things. You gotta have a hot fire, and you gotta flip till you get the color. Each time you flip the fajita, if you look at the meat, if you leave it sitting there long enough, you're gonna see all the moisture try to come out the top. It'll evaporate if you leave it too long. So it's better if you flip it before it starts to evaporate, before you get too much moisture on top. You wanna flip that meat, and that way, each time you flip it, instead of the moisture coming out and evaporating, it stays inside the meat. I didn't quite have enough heat to sear the bottom, so I lowered my grate down. Now I'm really close to the fire. As I was saying earlier, you want to get close to that fire. You want a hot and fast cook when you're cooking fajitas. It's all about that sear, that little char. Look at that. Whew, look at that. You think that marinade works? That fajita is falling apart, man. That was only 4 hours. Look at that. Beautiful. Just beautiful. So you have to be able to read it. I can see that it's very hot now. So this little piece that was right over the flames, I'm gonna move it over here to the side so it doesn't overcook and so it doesn't cook too fast. So that is the key. Hot fire, flippity flip, move it around if you need to. You gotta read that fire, man. Now during that tour, I got to taste the different spirits and enjoy and understand some of the complexity of the different spirits. You know, when you sip on this, you get that little hint of pineapple, kind of a coconut, a little cinnamon, kind of a sweet, fruity finish. I had already been researching marinade, and when I tasted this bourbon, that's how I knew this was gonna be the one to use in my marinade. These meats are done, so I'm gonna move this one over here to the side. Folks, look at this meat. It is definitely tenderized with that marinade. Absolutely, yes. All right, folks, these fajitas are done. That moisture coming out of the top. You really would like to flip them before that moisture starts to pop up. You can see it on these here too, where all that moisture is right there. These are done. These are going into the pan already. They are done, done, done. I'm gonna let them cool off and rest a little bit, finish my drink. I'm gonna warm up some tortillas, and we're gonna make us a fajita taco. Cheers. 2 for me, 1 for Terry. How's that? Look at that steam, man. These fajitas look really, really nice, friend. I mean, that really looks good. Look at the juice dripping off of there. All right, friends, we're ready to slice. Everybody knows when you cook fajitas or steaks, you almost always need a little shake of salt and pepper. In our case, we want salt, pepper, and garlic, so we're gonna put a little OG on here. It needs just a little shake of that on there before we slice it, just for that little extra flavor kick. All right, let's slice some of these fajitas up. Look how perfectly cooked they are. Perfect medium. Let's slice these up and get our little fajita taco going here. And like Arnie Takes always says, a sharp knife really makes the job a lot easier. Folks, if you have any question, if you have any doubt about how this marinade will tenderize that meat, I mean, look at this. Look how it's starting to fall apart. It passes the bend test. All right, friends, let's get us a couple of really good tacos going here. We're gonna put it on the tortilla here. Man, that meat just looks so nice. You can use any condiment you want in the 956 Rio Grande Valley. We love, love, love pico de gallo. Oh, wow. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. That fajita is super tender. I'm gonna retract my earlier statement of maybe 8 hours. You really, maybe more like 4 to 5 max. Okay, so make this marinade in the morning. You're ready to cook at noon, or make it at noon and you're ready to cook for dinner. And even though we had 3 teaspoons of WOW in there, there's no salt, there's no kick of any kind like that. That's why we went ahead and put the OG on it. You can just regular salt, a little sea salt, or whatever salt you like. All right, folks, that about wraps it up for fajitas. And again, it comes down to the 4 key points, which are tenderness, it's flavor, it's cooking hot and fast, it's flippity flip, and then it's slicing across the grain. Before my taco gets really cold, I want to say a big thank you again to my sponsor, Still Austin Whiskey Company. There is a link in the description to shop online. Hit the link and they will ship it right to your door. If you want to try my APC Wow or the APC OG, it's at pitmaster.us. If you want to up your barbecue game, go to pitmasterclass.us. We'll see you on the next video. Keep the smoke light and wow. Cheers, everybody. Is that juicy or what?